The dust rolled across the open Wyoming plain like a slow, angry sigh, curling around the fence posts that carved a crooked line across the barren field. The sun had barely risen, but its heat was already gathering, pressing down on the world like a silent warning. And there, tied to the fence with a rope that bit into her thin wrists, stood Mara, shivering even though the morning was warm, blinking against the brightness as if she wasn't sure she deserved the daylight. Her breath rattled. Not from fear, she had long ago become numb to that, but from exhaustion, the kind that seeped into bones and refused to leave. The men who had dragged her here hadn't bothered to look back. She was too weak, they said. Not worth the food. Another mouth they didn't want to feed. Another burden the ranch wouldn't carry. So they'd left her with a punishment harsher than a beating, abandonment. Mara didn't know how long she'd been tied there. Minutes. Hours. Time had blurred when her hope had. The faint rumble of an engine drifted across the land, and for a moment she thought she imagined it. No one ever drove this far out except ranch hands and storms of trouble. She kept her eyes low anyway, because looking up only ever brought consequences. Dust kicked up around a slow-moving truck that approached from the west, dark blue paint scuffed from years of work but still stubbornly alive. The truck eased to a stop a few yards away. A man stepped out. Tall. Broad shoulders. Worn boots. A hat pulled low enough to cast a shadow across his expression. A silent ghost of a man, but the kind that filled the space without trying. His presence was like a storm cloud, quiet, heavy, unpredictable. He didn't speak. He didn't move closer at first. He just watched her. Mara swallowed hard. Her voice was barely a whisper. I don't want trouble. The man's jaw tightened. Not anger. Something else. Something she couldn't read. He approached slowly, boots crunching through the dry grass. When he reached the fence, he crouched down, eyes level with hers, steady, unflinching, but not cruel. Who did this? He asked, voice deep, roughened like gravel and smoke. She shook her head immediately. Too fast. Too afraid. No one. No one. Please just go. I'll be fine. His eyes narrowed slightly, he knew a lie when he heard one. But he didn't press her. Instead, he drew a pocket knife from his belt, flicked it open with practiced ease, and cut the rope cleanly. Her wrists fell free, but she didn't move. She didn't know if she was allowed to. You hurt? He asked. She shook her head again, though everything inside her hurt. Years of being told she was nothing clung to her like mud. Can you walk? She hesitated. Yes, sir. Don't call me sir, he murmured, almost annoyed. Name's Coulter. She waited as if he might say more, who he was, why he helped, what he wanted, but the man simply stood and jerked his chin toward the truck. Not demanding. Not asking. Offering. And that alone broke something inside her. I don't think I should, she whispered. They'll come back. If they see me with you. They won't, Coulter said, his voice low, certain, final. How do you know? He didn't answer, but something in the silence told her he had seen men like the ones who abandoned her before, and he wasn't afraid of them. She took one step toward him, stumbled, and the world tilted. Before she hit the ground, strong arms wrapped around her, steadying her as if she weighed nothing at all. Mara tensed instinctively, bracing for the reprimand she was used to, but Coulter merely adjusted his hold and lifted her gently, like carrying a wounded animal. You're safe, he said quietly. Words she had never once believed in her life. He placed her carefully in the passenger seat of the truck, buckling her in when her shaking hands couldn't manage it. She stared at him as he closed the door, slowly, as if making sure she didn't flinch. When he climbed into the driver's seat, he didn't start the engine right away. Instead, he sat for a moment, watching her the way someone looks at a map they're trying to understand. You hungry? He asked. Her throat tightened. She nodded once. He reached behind the seat, pulled out a small lunchbox, opened it, and handed her a sandwich wrapped in wax paper. Simple ham and cheese. Something ordinary and insignificant to most people. To Mara, it was the first act of kindness she had felt in years. She held it with trembling fingers. Thank you, she whispered. Coulter nodded, started the engine, and drove. Not fast, steady. Like he didn't want to startle her. Like he knew she was fragile in ways she didn't want to admit. The ranch he brought her to was wide and quiet, framed by rolling hills and a wooden home with a sagging porch that looked weather-beaten but sturdy. Several horses grazed lazily nearby. A dog trotted out, barking once before wagging its tail at the truck. Mara stared out the window as if afraid to breathe. "This is your place." Coulter stopped the engine. "You'll stay here a while." Her head snapped toward him. "I can't. I don't belong here. I don't belong anywhere." He turned, meeting her eyes with an intensity that halted every anxious word inside her. "You do now." The conviction in his voice was so unfamiliar it made her chest ache. He got out of the truck, walked around, opened her door, and waited for her to take his hand. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to believe she wasn't being led back into darkness, but toward something like safety. Something like home. Coulter's ranch. Coulter's quiet certainty. Coulter's unexpected kindness. Mara didn't know it yet, but this was the moment everything changed. And somewhere deep inside her, a small fragile hope flickered, one she had thought long dead. Because sometimes, the strongest rescue comes not from heroes with loud promises, but from silent men who simply do what's right.